The reaction to the new Powerpuff Girls episode is in the link in the description below to my Google Drive. What you will be getting right here is just like the edited version of the beginning and end portion of the reaction. Head off into the link in the description below for the Google Drive to head off and watch the reaction. If you want to know my fan thoughts and rational thoughts, come back over to the channel and then watch the end review. That's pretty much it. Also, in the beginning of each episode, I mention why I need to edit some of my stuff, and also I hurt myself, and you have me explain. I don't want to make this too long. Hey guys, this is Do You Want to Be the Universe post reactions. The only reason why I'm putting this in the beginning of, I'm going to be putting this in the beginning of the first 3 reaction videos, just so I can explain what exactly happens. When I was editing these, the only reason why I'm editing them and not Will at this point, because Will is currently doing some major stuff in college, because he's actually 1 year ahead of me. Did I mention that? He's actually 1 year ahead of me, so he has like the more hard stuff to do, while I'm still like kind of in like the mid-range of things to do. But here's the thing. As I was reviewing these and editing them, I was listening to myself, and let's just say I can see what people mean by saying having nostalgia and having over-biasness affect an episode. While I will say, when I made my points clear after my first impressions, aka the first blind reaction, which is the first time I see the episode, I go critically acclaiming on the old series to this new series. Even though I was trying to like convey that this new series is actually not that bad. It's actually really good. I'm not saying it's perfect, not saying that it doesn't have flaws, because it clearly does, but I overshadow that with like the old series. So with that being said, I took time to rewatch all 3 episodes at my own pace, sitting there and actually trying to analyze certain things, because like blind reactions, they kind of affect your judgment, because not only are you having your opinion out as soon as you're done watching it, but you are constantly trying to do something to entertain someone while you're doing a blind reaction to it, instead of just sitting there and literally just trying to take it all in. So as for me, I'm going to do 2 sides of a whole kind of deal. The problem with this series is that I don't know who it's targeted toward. I did not know if it was for the new fans, old fans of the new series trying to get back into the series, or a little bit in between the two. And my points my original points after the blind reaction are going to be purely based, even though I try to make it like on a both side kind of deal, purely based on old fan. And when you see me post reaction right here, I'm going to be explaining. I'm pretty much going to be explaining what it would be like if a regular fan who never heard of the old series or just saw a few episodes of the old series, didn't really grow up on it, will think. Because it is good. Let me just be frank about that right now. It is a good series. Just because I talk about the old series and say stuff they probably did better or did right about it, or stuff I remember and try to pass off my experiences, doesn't mean this series is not less enjoyable to watch than what they would do if they just brought the real original series, brought Lauren Faust back to write a few episodes with another few great writers along with the old voice actors. Those kind of things you can live with. It's like change. You gotta deal with change to understand what you still have. I mean, like, at least it's better than nothing, right? I love Powerpuff Girls to the point where, yes, I would love a rebooted series. And this is something that is actually okay. So, just want to get that out. This is going to be in the beginning of each video, just so I can let you guys know. Because when I was listening to myself, I kind of hated myself. So I'm just trying to help the people who don't want to have a overzealous nostalgia fanboy talking about something, clearly overshadowing what the actual show he's watching is. And I will admit, I became something that I didn't even want to become in the reaction. It's just weird how I didn't notice it as I was talking. So that's something I need to look into. So yeah, two sides. Me being an analyst and seeing how the episode could work and what they can improve upon on their own rights, and the fanboy side. If you don't want to hear that, just know it's the second one. There we go.
You should know by now the mercy's off the table. Think that you can try to spare me like I'm someone when you didn't spare my brother, so get dunked on.
What's up, guys? This is Do You Want to Be a Universe, and this is going to be the 3rd episode of my 3-episode Trek series of me reacting to the Powerpuff Girls. If you're in the liking of these reactions, please tell me so I would be more motivated to continue doing reactions like this, because this is just purely for a critical standpoint on an old-time fan of the old series, trying to see if the new series can live up to what the old series brought to the table, see if the new generation will get like the same experience, or a different experience, but the same kind of outcome that we who watched the Powerpuff Girls back in the old days got. And I'm mainly doing this because, as you know, since I'm a My Little Pony fan, and most My Little Pony fans also know about Powerpuff Girls because, you know, Tara Strong and whatnot brings us all together, would also see Powerpuff Girls because Tara Strong's epic voices, that sort of thing. So this is purely me being overly critical on certain occasions. And if this does happen to get popularity from you guys to want me to continue the series, I will definitely do so. And the first time I get first sign of a copyright strike from Cartoon Network, that's when I immediately cut things off. So don't be mad if that actually happens, because I'm not going to make this Steven Universe. Alright, I'm not going to say a mistake like Steven Universe did. As soon as I get the slightest warning that this is a bad idea, all videos are going to take it down. But this is just purely for me to express my reviews to this new series, because I need to do this. I need to do this so I can jot it down and document it, because this is history to me. This is history, all right? It's history. It's like My Little Pony, the new season of My Little Pony. It's like you look at the old series and look at the new series. Clearly, some things are different, and some things they need to talk about, and how they improved and what they didn't improve on. So without further ado, let's get started. 3, 2, 1, now. What's up, Rational Do You Want a Bit of Brony here. Gonna give you my initial review of the reviewing of this episode. Now, this episode, being the third episode and being the last episode that I'm gonna do, I'm trying to talk critically, truly critically, with both nostalgia and just first-time watcher intent in my mind. This episode is a little of a mixed bag as well, like the last episode. Immediately after the episode, you already got two gimmicks that they were going through, running gags you could see they were going through, which is the Rocktopus gag and the flashback gag. The gag of how many times I can say flashback, and then even if it's like 2 seconds or 5 seconds, that hit home. It's funny in certain occasions and funny in certain moments, so that worked. The Rocktopus one did show promise as well, so those two hit during the episode. And the premise of the episode itself was something I didn't expect to see, really. The whole what happened last night gig of the episode. Blossom and Buttercup need to find Bubbles because they didn't know what happened to Bubbles. We didn't know what happened to Bubbles, but we did see their adventure of what they did last night, of all that candy and friends with the friends they were doing, and they also need to go to this water park. If they don't find Bubbles by the time Professor gets back to go to the water park, they're obviously going to get in trouble because they can't lose your sister. So this is like a grown-up responsibility thing to do, especially if Bubbles is lost, and that is important. If Bubbles is lost, that is just bad. Mojo could have her. Him could have her. A villain could have her. Something bad is probably happening to her right now. So once we go on a trek and see it is basically like funny shenanigans. There really is no plot line other than the fact we need to find Bubbles, so we need to retrace our steps. When we retrace our steps, we're going to show what we did, that crazy thing that we did, and I like the foreshadowing with the bull, and just like how the bull get there and why is he there. Okay, they went to a rodeo, and I forgot what they call it, like a matador thing, and Buttercup took on the bull herself, and apparently the bull came back home with them afterwards. Bubbles was inside the house the entire time under some sheets, and I will say this in the irrational portion of this review, but I think it still would have been better if they had, like, in the background, just a tuft of blanket, and that would have been like, oh, that little small detail that didn't mean nothing before, now it meant something, because it's just like, okay, we don't know where Bubbles is, and they're so hangovered from the candy escapade that they did, they couldn't see a tuft of blanket anywhere, and Bubbles didn't say anything for the entire hour that they were gone, so she was just still sleeping during time. So it's like, okay, just this was purely comedy based. It wasn't meant to be fully on serious, because, you know, as the show, it's not like they're gonna do something to Bubbles to the point where she's not gonna be in the series or fully not in the episode anymore. So of course, they're gonna either find her in some place or she never left to begin with. As for the Monsters Inc. joke that I declared, the Monsters Inc. joke. I know this joke is not called the Monster Inc. joke, but this is the only thing that comes to my mind once they did there. They're like, what happened to all the balls in the ball pit? Well, those went to some place to get crushed, stomped, and manipulated. In Monsters Inc. when Boo's little eye thing from her costume went to the trash compactor. Sully was just watching as all this stuff was destroying it, and just like, oh my god, and now she's a cube, and now he's just holding on to it, just heartbroken, and it's just like, here she is. That's exactly that's exactly the exact thing that happened. And they had the hats. They're like, now she's a hat. I like that. And then you're like, no, I ain't go anywhere. It was right here. So yeah, that was the whole point with that. So the episode is just depending on how funny the jokes hit home for you. There's really nothing in there that's supposed to be like, okay, is this supposed to be a lesson? No, there is no lesson in this episode other than the fact, listen to your father, okay? When they says don't eat a lot of candy, that's the lesson. Listen to your father. Listen to your father. All right, and something I want to go more in depth in when you see Irrationally You Want a Bit of Brony talk about this episode is one thing that I really could not stomach, and I think since you watched the reaction, you already know what it is, and that is what they did to Robin. Now, Robin was one of my favorite episodes to see, because it hit home for me. Robin was moving in to a new town. As from me being born in New Orleans, after Hurricane Katrina, I lost all my friends when that happened. So I had to move over to Houston. So when I was moving in, I had no friends. But then I made a few friends when I was going to my new school, and I couldn't make any other friends at all because my personality drove people away and bring people in. So the amount of friends that I did have really stuck with me. But those friends had things to do over time, they had to go places, had to hang out with other people that didn't like me the way that they liked me, and all that sort of stuff. And this was like a consistent thing that happened. This happened in middle school, this happened in high school, and this is happening now in college. I have friends, but they have other things to do when it comes to work, job, and other ethics. So when I watched this episode for the first time, it really felt like it was an episode for me. It's like, this is what I'm going through. I know what Robin is going through whenever the Powerpuff Girls need to go out and save the day. And it's like, I love the personality like that. And the rest of the episode was just about her apparently being friends with the wrong person. And that happened to me too. I was friends with the wrong person whenever I wasn't friends with the other people. When I made friends with another person, he tried to push me on drugs. He tried to push me on alcohol. He tried to push me on all these other things and try to use peer pressure against me. But since I didn't even know what peer pressure was and didn't like people to the point where I actually listened to them, I didn't do drugs and I didn't do liquor. So I left that dude behind. But and the other friends were the only grass for me. So that's the ordeal. When I watched that episode, that's exactly what I got, and I loved it. And so seeing them change Robin from that character to now this creepy character, it's something that, if anything, I need to get used to in this series. If they're gonna do that as a running thing for whenever they use Robin, I'm gonna have to get used to that. So that's the main personal thing that I cannot avoid in this episode. They didn't need to do that, they had no reason to do that, and they just did that. They could have done it to any other character. They could have done it to a random side character. Why do it to a character that had a pure episode all to herself? And clearly did not show that kind of notion in the episode. That's the only thing that really got to me. And I had to talk about it like this because as an old fan, of course I'm going to feel that way. As a person who just not got into the series, they won't care. They would just treat Robin as if she was always like that if she was in the old series. So that's just what I got to say. So for new time people, they won't care because they don't know Robin's backstory of anything. They're just a random girl who is creepy who says raisins, their nature's candy, with wide, creepy eyes. It's alright. So even though this isn't Irrational Do You Want a Bit of Brony, and you're going to watch them right now, that is something that really did get to me. So I had to say that in a more calm manner while I'm going to be just talking about it in this manner. So for the episode in on itself, it is an episode of whether or not it's funny or not to you. And if the jokes do not hit home, which they do, there are very funny jokes in here, then you won't find much enjoyment out of the episode, because it's purely based on like how you feel in these situations. They even want to get like a few oh my gods out of you with the old orphan deal, and also do like a foreshadowing event. It's like Powerpuff Girls, they're going to someplace fun and exciting. Orphans, they can't go to the Puppy Island. They can't go to Puppy Island. I forgot the second thing that they couldn't do apparently. And it's like, okay, depressing. And they're like, you know what? Instead of doing this, because we clearly don't have that kind of drive to, we're gonna be good people and give it to the orphans who need to do it. And they did it. All right. So random selfless deed of the day. All that jazz. So yeah. So it's purely, you could say it's purely like a Blossom and Buttercup episode, because Bubbles isn't nowhere in there until like the end of the series and in certain flashbacks when she is doing something. So yeah, and also the introduction of Mojo Jojo. This is again what I mean. If this is for a new time fan, they just don't know who Mojo is. He's just there now. He's just there. But for old time fans, we know who he is, what he does. But they introduced Princess Morbucks in a way, so why not Mojo in a way? And it is just they're treating this like we just are now caught into something that we should know. And I've been watching my comments. No one's really told me like what this was aimed for during the time in my trailer reaction. And I hope someone can answer me in these episodes. Like, do you know what this is directed towards? If it's directed toward that, I will go through every other episode with that mentality, so I don't have to be rational, do you want a bit of Brody, and irrational, do you want a bit of Brody, and just talk about it in the way that they intended to show these episodes as. That's all I gotta say. So, thank you for watching this, and irrational, do you want a bit of Brody. This episode was weird, in the event that I can't believe they did the old what happened, the Hangover night deal. What happened? That sort of deal. Are kids gonna get that nowadays? I guess. I mean, like, I've seen some kids who know some things that they shouldn't know until they're like 30. So hey, who knows? Who knows? So let's just go on the beaten path and say, all right, this episode is heavily based on the Hangover effect episode, which happens in Skyrim. I think it's either a DLC or it's a mod I got, or it's an actual like a quest. Either or, it's in Skyrim that you apparently have a drinking contest with this guy, and he's apparently a demon. He's actually a demon, and he only got you drunk so you can have like a series of misfortunate events that you don't remember doing, and you go on a series of misfortunate quests to finalize what you did. And you go through all this other stuff, and it's like, okay, I drank too much and I went through all this sort of deal. And then in some other shows, they do this sort of thing, aka like the Hangover itself. And, but okay, they did something last night, and then we go to areas and then we see what they actually did, and it's like very crazy. And they were doing these sort of things because they were under heavy influence of candy. For the expectations of Bubble still being at the house, and they just didn't look in a sheet. See, what would have made that entire bit funny, and I'm gonna go back into it just in case I didn't miss it, because again, it's just like a heavily suggestive thing. Whilst they are looking through the house, it would have been really funny if when Blossom's going through the house, you see like in the background a ball of blanket. That would have been hilarious. Then you're like, okay, foreshadowing. What's the ball of blanket doing there? Oh, Bubble's been in it the entire time. That would have been more of like, okay. But and the orphan thing, okay, again, very, very overly depressing until you went to the end and it was like, okay, we're gonna give it to the orphans. Greatness. All right, sure, I'll deal with that. As for like everything else, all right, the joke's kind of iffy on certain parts, and I kind of like a few other things. They did nail a few, and yeah. For overall enjoyment matters, Mojo was Mojo, but almost too Joe for our Mojo, you could say. He had a little bit of a redesign. He has more of an ape-like posture to him, but I think that was either just the disguise he was having, but obviously you could see something different with his overall body structure. But he still has the same Mojo-esque voice and the same old Mojo-esque manner, that he overly complicates his speech a lot and rolls with a lot of things that he's practically forced into, and his plans are diabolical to an overly exaggerated point, and they lead almost nowhere. So yeah, they got Mojo down pat. So far, villains pretty faithful to the source material, and the girls, the only thing that they're like very different and very spastic. It's the different scenarios that really make me wonder, like in certain other scenarios, how would these girls act? Like, I really want to continue on with the series with the unill intentions of the old series from me. Like, once I see how they handle him, that would be like the definitive point of how I see the series going out, because him always had those very serious type matters, besides the episode where him joins up with Fuzzy Lumpkin's Princess, Mojo, and I think it was just those four. All I do know is, I think it was just those four. They became like the Beatles or something like that. It was like a Beatles reference. They were a group, and those four together could take out the Powerpuff Girls because of their teamwork, and I like that. I love that episode. And but for the main centers of him, anytime that there is an episode with him in it, he always has this like psychological thing along with his demonic power going into it a bit. Like when he was Bubbles' octopus thing, and it was really weird. I will always remember the episode. I may not always remember like the moral and the overall context, but but him being the doll and just like taking control of it and making it turn giant will always haunt my memory. Not in my dreams, but my memory, because it's so vivid, and it is the main thing I really remember about him, besides the episode where he licks the professor's cheek in the episode where they went forward in time and him took over the world. So him is the only really big thing that I'm really looking forward to in the series, and I want to see how they handle him. As for me in the series in general, if you guys liked me watching this series and wish for me to continue, I would happy to do so you can see me either suffer or trying to really cope with this newfound series, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm really biased due to the old series. I cannot change that. I cannot just say, well, the old series is out, this series I just need to just accept it as it is, without having a single memory of the old series getting in my head about certain scenarios and certain things, of how the girls should act or would act in this scenario in general. Just like that. It's just like, okay, I'm already completely like off the deep end when it comes to like how they're supposed to handle them fighting monsters and stuff like that. And it's confirmed in this series. Monsters have integrated themselves into the city of Townsville, and they work with humans, and that's it. Some of them work as actors of being monsters, and if you know, since they're kids and they don't really realize this, when that monster burst out of his car and those other cars flew off in the distance, they didn't picture people actually being in those cars and being seriously injured, if not fully killed, due to the impact that they did once they hit the ground. Kids don't think like that. I should know. I didn't think like that, but since I'm no longer a kid, I think like that. So of course, I'm gonna be critical. So, hey, but, alright, but again, monsters integrated themselves into the city of Townsville. The mayor, they changed the hotline to the hot cell phone line, and they kept the face, so like they did something in that regard. This is a reboot slash retelling slash reimagining slash, it's just so many things. They're not, because it is not how you handle things. It is really not. See, a reboot is supposed to be something you're taking and like redoing it, like how DMC did with Devil May Cry. I was on the vast minority of people who said, okay, maybe this might be good. And I played it, and then I realized it was really bad. I only hated it because they did the joke where the broom lands on his head and it's like, not in a million years. That's when you tick me off. You don't do that to a person who actually said, I like the old Dante, why change it like this? That's just literally slapping us in the face. You don't do that. Does this series do that? No, I don't think it actually does. What it does is that it doesn't know how to tell it in the way that you're supposed to tell it if you're doing a reboot. This is like a remake, if it's a remake, then it's remaking things that already exist, but it clearly has different motives, different tactics, different way of telling things, different ways of going about it, and different character traits that weren't there in the old series. Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup, they're different voices. They could bother some people because the old voices were like iconic to them, but I can get used to these voices over time, obviously. But the personalities just seem so different from what we already know from the old series. It's like they're too stereotypic for what we would expect them to be. Bubbles being the cute one, Blossom being the smart one, Buttercup being just the tough one, rugged one. So their personalities and their traits need to bounce off that. Even though in the old series, I could clearly tell that they have more than just one-dimensional feelings to what we would expect them to be, and that's clearly shown also in the movie. Again, still, I can't really mention the movie because it's just like a background story of how it all began and stuff like that. So since this is all different, just like, okay, it's just okay. Main pet peeves throughout the entire series so far is just Buttercup's hair. I'll never get used to that. Those two things are just ticking me off every single time I look at them. Because it seems so forced. I hate it. It's like the Mega Evolution to Venusaur that people keep pointing out. Oh, Charizard becomes a dragon and all this stuff. Blastoise gets more cannons. Venusaur gets a flower on its forehead. Great. And that's exactly what Buttercup's redesign is. Just what? Why? That seems so. Why? And the other pet peeve is just like plot lines that don't seem to really go anywhere. I would love to have seen Frederick be like continuity or something like that. And if I knew her name, I can't really say it since I don't remember her name. Obviously, I cannot defend it the way I want to. But you know the girl that I was talking about who made the joke, hey, I was an accident too, and she was actually a really good reoccurring character in certain episodes, I think in the 6th or 7th season or something like that in Powerpuff Girls. They changed her voice, they changed her eyesight to be more of a creepy aesthetic. That really hurt me. That really hurt me because I remember her entire existence in the old series was because the Powerpuff Girls never really had another gal pal or something like that. They never really got in depth with another prime friend that didn't have powers. And the whole center point of the episode was like she had friends. She was moving in. She didn't have any friends, and then she gained friends with the Powerpuff Girls. And she had friends, but they had powers. So just like then the powers really got in, and every time they had to go fight crime, she got really depressed. And I could feel for that. I related to that so well. I didn't have superpowered friends before you go off the deep end on that. But I had friends that had better things to do than hang out with me. But they didn't do it because they were mean-spirited or doing this stuff. They just did it because they had to do it. They had jobs. They had work. They had, when I say work, homework to do. They had parent issues, family matters. Just better things to do than hang out with me or whatever I had to do. And I really got really depressed because I know it was out of their control, and I had no other friends to really go to because I didn't have any more friends. I love that episode so much, but and seeing what they did to her right there, they're making her the creepy character, really? I had to step back. I had to step back and really take that in because that was so weird to me. So that's another pet peeve in me. That's another pet peeve for me in this series, and if they're going to continue doing that, I'm going to be disappointed. But clearly that's what they're going to have to do since they already established it. It's like saying, okay, Derpy's no longer Derpy because Soccer Mom said that she's offensive. Okay. Okay. So the series, these 3 episodes, now that I got a full in-depth 3 episodes of the series, I can clearly state that this series, to me, if trying to be what it is from the old series, it's a 7.5. Series in on itself, and if I was just coming in this without even knowing about the old series, 8 to 8.5. Because there are good jokes. There are good things in this. There are good character interactions between the sisters, and there are certain things that you can get into. like, yeah, okay, it's good. It's not terrible. It's not a 6. It's not a 5. It's not that bad. It's okay, but it's not the old series. That's something we definitely can say. It's definitely not the old series. There are plenty of differences, and you can even declare that it's better than the old series. I don't know your history with why do I keep saying that? With Powerpuff Girls in the olden days, when I used to watch this stuff on Cartoon Network and Boomerang when it came on anytime. And oh man. So this was my experience, and it's just, I hope they can do things a little bit better, because there are clearly elements that show that they're taking free liberties on people's already prior knowledge to the old series, with how the freeze breath is with Blossom and how talking to animals is with Bubbles, and how Princess Morbucks wants to be a Powerpuff Girl and is just immediately introduced without any much background in the fact that she's rich, she wants to be a Powerpuff Girl, and also she wants to betray the Powerpuff Girls and be the only Powerpuff Girl, even though she doesn't even know the implications of what being a Powerpuff Girl even is. Blossom, it's just all these things you have to know from the Power series, and if you came in this without knowing anything about the Powerpuff Girls, you clearly will be lost in certain occasions. You would think they all have ice breath, they all can talk to animals, they just don't feel like it. They all don't have the same powers. Some of them do have differentiations of what they are besides personality and a unique talent to them. And they do seem to be taking like pop culture references. I'm not really in depth with them, but they are definitely doing things that I didn't really notice if they actually did in the old series, but they seem to be doing a lot more. Like you could clearly see when they're doing the Monster Island, they did like the designs from like Godzilla and Gamera, all those monsters and stuff like that. It's just alright. Also, there's one thing, Miss Bellum. Haven't seen Miss Bellum. Are they gonna keep her? They're gonna keep her face like hidden. The only time you actually get to see her face is for one, like, 2, maybe a second and a half in like the final episode. I don't know if it's the final episode of the Powerpuff Girls series, Powerpuff Girls Rule, I think. It's an episode where she shows her face for like a half a second or something like that, and then turns. I love the joke that the hair is always blocking, or she's just like above frame, like the old Cow and Chicken store. Like the adults did not have like torsos; they were just legs and feet. That's it. That was the only thing I found funny in the entirety of Cow and Chicken, even though I never really watched Cow and Chicken. All right, so just with Powerpuff Girls, it's so like, okay. Next thing they're gonna reboot is Dexter's Laboratory, and next thing they're gonna reboot is something else that's probably part of my childhood. Now I'm gonna have to do a reaction series too. But I had to get these out. I had to show my opinion on these and show you how passionate I am with Powerpuff Girls. Because wow, I am like, I got nothing else left to say, maybe, unless it just comes to my head randomly. So this is Do You Want to Build a Universe? I wonder how they're gonna do the Gangrene Gang. I wonder how they're gonna do other particular villains. And this has been my 3-episode thing with new Powerpuff Girls reboot. And if you want more, tell me. If you don't, say nothing. And if you found my critiques to this series liable, good, bad, overbiased, overzealous, tell me. Because this is the whole point of why I'm doing this right now. I want to show my opinion and see if they're logical. Because I could be saying all this and I could be completely wrong about everything. Who knows? Because there are over 7 billion people and I'm pretty sure they all have a different opinion in what something is. So yeah. Do you want to be the universe? See you next time. Bye.